name is Christine. Welcome to my podcast, Unmuzzled at 67. So today is episode 6 of series 2, and it's called Friendship and Finding Your Tribe. And before I start, I usually talk about the previous episode. And up until today, I just really didn't want to do that because I found last week's episode so difficult to do. And even now, I still feel quite emotional about it. But I have had so much support from people, and people have been kind enough to send me in their stories of what happened with them and, you know, saying that they could really relate. And that has absolutely lifted me. And something that somebody said amongst those comments was how you feel alone. And I think when other people share their version of that particular story, trying to look after parents that are ill or even dying, you do feel alone. You do feel it's such moments of despair and just honestly depression, that you just think that nobody else can be going through this. And so it has reminded me, all of this support has reminded me that everybody goes through this. And if you haven't, you will. So I've decided just to talk about last week's episode because of all that support, and thank you. So last week I was talking about how I was unable to manage money from a very, very early age, and how that led to real difficulties, and me having to kind of highlighting the fact that I had to take out a trust deed, which I didn't know what that was and had to be told. And there I was for 5 years, you know, in this, and how difficult that was, trying to pay back the money that I owed on credit cards. And also about having to cash in my pension, which is one of those decisions that I said was a long-lasting decision. So I talked about that last week. And of course, I talked about losing my parents. And I talked really about my story, what happened in my family when that day finally came. So it was very sad, but it was nice that so many people responded with their stories and made me feel that I didn't go through it alone. So thank you so much. Never underestimate the power of sharing. That's what I always say. So let's get started on this week. We're talking about friendship and finding your tribe. And I wanted to share some of my challenges within friendships in the past. And perhaps you will resonate, and perhaps you will be relieved that you don't. So let's crack on. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. It took me a long time, in fact, almost all of my life, to finally realise that in friendships, actions speak louder than words. The people who say, love you, and feel that's enough. I also learned that friendships needed to be balanced. Both have to contribute. And for me, that being there for me meant more than big gestures of Christmas presents or birthday presents, although I like them too, I have to say. That being surrounded by the right people for me is food for the soul. When my mum died many years ago, my work friends turned up at the funeral, even although they had never met her and had never met any of my family. They came to support me. That, for me, is friendship. But there were other friendships I found exhausting. Me doing all the giving and others just letting me. There have been friendships that I feel kind of run their course. And whilst a friend may be very important to you, perhaps in a particular situation or at a particular time in your life, history is not a reason to keep a friend if you feel there is no real connection anymore. I'm happy to walk away in these circumstances, but I have to admit that I have been reminded that there have been times when maybe that particular friend was not ready to walk away, and that I hurt them. And to those people, then honestly, I'm sorry. I think I would say that I didn't know how to have those kind of honest conversations in those days. And I would like to think that today I was a little bit more mature and I would handle these situations in a bit more sensitive manner. As you probably know, my lifestyle for most of my life was that I was constantly changing jobs. And in the pursuit of finding more satisfaction and inspirational people to work for. But as always, my decisions were delusional. I was doing the same job. I was just changing locations, and it was the actual job itself I disliked. So I was always meeting new people, and I was guilty of forgetting the old. So as I was moving around a lot, now I realise I was looking for something that existed inside of me, not outside. I was looking for happiness. Changing locations, going to more luxurious hotels made absolutely no difference. I was still stuck in a job that I hated. And that definitely contributed to losing touch with people. But I guess if I'm honest, if I'd tried harder and put in a bit more effort, then that may not always have happened. Some friendships have ended dramatically and in anger. 2 come to mind. And although I regret losing my temper, I don't regret the outcome. I don't miss them. I find my life more peaceful without them. And I don't apologise for doing what Aunt Middleton always says that we should do, which is to cut people out of your life like a cancer if they are the wrong people. I am ruthless about this, and you've probably heard me say that before. The door closes and it's locked. When people show you their true colours, don't paint another picture. In other words, once you see what a person is capable of, why would you go back for more? I gave one friendship a second go and it was never the same. And that was proof enough for me that my approach is the right approach for me. My mental health and my equilibrium comes first. I will only be around people who are good people and really get me. There is honestly a freedom when you reach a point in your life when you don't care what others think of you. This is such a great place to be. Learning to meditate in my early 60s changed how I thought, not necessarily the thoughts themselves. Gradually, my thinking became more slow. It started to slow down. I became more rational, less reactive. It changed my life, really. I stopped behaving like a bam. I started to look at how I was behaving within a friendship to see where I could improve. And I noticed that I'd started behaving differently. I had become more patient. I was actively listening, not just sitting waiting for me to get a chance to speak. I had become more compassionate. I was well known for my dismissiveness and my harshness. And I just became a better friend. I put more effort in, which I found wasn't hard to do. And surprisingly for me, I would go out of my way to help or to do something for a friend if I felt that was needed. And maybe most important of all, I learned the benefits there were to me from being kind. It made me feel good. It kind of gave me a buzz because I wasn't a kind person at all. And that just made me want to do more kind things. I was a different person. I invested much more of me in friendships than I had ever done. So I would honestly say that I think I'm a proper friend these days than I ever was before. This is a fairly new experience for me, to be kind, but I like the person I've become, though I continue to try to be the very best version of myself that I can be. Some days it's easy and some days it's not easy at all, but I keep trying. Today, my group of friends is small and varied, especially in ages, but what they all have in common is that they're a source of encouragement, support, and inspiration. It's just easy and comfortable, even when they're reeling me in for some straight talking. I always want to know how they are, and I want to keep in touch regularly. I've still got a friend that I've had for 25 years that I see fairly regularly. She is lovely. She's wise and she's grounded and she's vital. Craig is a friend that I've had for about 15 years, and we met when we worked together. We're not always in contact, but always we find each other and we can pick up exactly where we left off anytime. I silently admired him for so many years. He was gay, and he was the first gay man I knew to get married and discuss every detail of the reception and the ceremony with all of us at work. This was virtually unheard of. Talk about being true to yourself and speaking your truth. I'm trying to think when this was, and I think it would be maybe 2007, something like that. But I had never heard of any gay couple getting married before, like properly married. He was also very upfront about his own story, which was harrowing, to say the least. He wrote a book about his life, which was raw and unflinching, and he hid nothing. Truly authentic. Craig was an open book, whereas me, on the other hand, kept my story under wraps, not telling anyone what was going on with me. How I wished I could be like Craig. I still admire him today, and I tell him that regularly. Craig is super positive, successful, and a straight talker, a pure treasure. I have several other friends that I see regularly who actually just feel like part of my family, and I didn't get a chance to ask them if I could speak about them, and so I can't. But I think they know who they are, and I'm grateful to all of them. One of my newest friends is Callum, a fellow podcaster. We met while filming at the Glasgow podcast studio, and we just hit it off. We're at completely different points in our life journey, but we have shared some life experiences. In fact, we're hoping to work together on a new project of Callum's. And of course, there is my son's girlfriend, Natalie, who has become a friend and someone that I can confide in. And we're very like each other. And we just enjoy each other's company. And again, it's just very easy. But new friends are just as important as the older ones in my small select group. So, do I have any advice on friendships? Yes. Number 1, know your worth. And number 2, be selective. It's not about how long you've known someone. It's about how they make you feel. And lastly, a word about narcissists. Beware. I have worked for so many people like this, and if they try to even worm themselves into your life as a friend, it's a fucking catastrophe. Let me tell you what to look out for. A sense of self-importance, preoccupied with power. They act entitled. They can only be around people that are important. They're arrogant and they lack empathy. That is the most worrying trait of all, that you can't relate emotionally to anyone. They can be sweet-natured to lure you in. If you don't see the signs, they are even more exploitative friend. Everything they do and say is to benefit them. They have no emotional connection. So just a word of warning about people like this. But back to me. What could a person want more than to be surrounded by people who care about you and want the very best for you? So to all of my friends, I am so grateful to you and for you. So before we get on to talking about your tribe, which is also very important for me as well, I wanted to kind of finish that little section and tell you the story about how it was that I started to learn how to meditate, which was quite unlikely circumstances. And it's entitled TFC, that fucking cruise. So in 2017, round about that time, as you know, I didn't have any money. I suddenly got quite a big tax rebate. So being me, rather than saving it, a friend of mine said, why don't you come on a cruise with us? It's brilliant. You'll love it. And she was a cruiser, so she loved going on the cruises. I says, I'm not very sure. Oh, she says, you will. You absolutely will love it. And she was one of the funniest women I've ever met, and her husband was brilliant. And I thought to myself, well, they'll even be quite good company, so that should be okay. But the way it turned out was that I just spent the whole cruise myself, because I'm about to tell you about the conversations that were going on fucking night and day. The conversations that went on night and day were all about food, and all about the buffet, and all about selecting food. So that this would be an example of the kind of course, on board a ship as well, you've got to eat at the same place all the time. You don't have an option to go elsewhere. So after breakfast, somebody would say, what are you going to have for lunch today? Oh, I've got my I&D sausages. I think they'll be lovely. And what kind of veg do you think would be the right veg? I like those potatoes. And what were those green things? Aye, maybe I'll have that. But then I liked the salmon. That looked lovely as well. Oh, I don't know what I would pick. We've only just had our fucking breakfast, and this is the detail that's gone into. And then after that conversation, there would be, I've got my and that steak for tonight. I'm not sure what you use tonight. What are you going to have tonight? And I'd be saying, I haven't fucking thought about that. I'm not even. How can this be even relevant? And that was the conversations that we had every single day forever. Because other people would say, oh no, I've definitely got my eye on the salmon. It'll definitely be salmon with me. And do you know what I'm going to have with it? I'm going to have this, this and this. And I spotted these desserts, and I think I'm going to have that. That'll be me the night. So, you know, my brain was burst wide open listening to this all the time. So somebody said to me, oh, listen, you used to call me the bird table because all I would eat was just a small portion. They were quite big eaters, and I had been warned beforehand, Christine, remember, and bring your buffet trousers for the second week. And I said, I don't know what buffet trousers are. Fuck's sake, it's elasticated waists. You'll need your elasticated waist for the second week when we all put on a stone. I says, all right, okay. I thought, I don't think that's going to be me. So anyway, to escape them, I found that there was, in fact, a meditation class going on. I thought, oh, listen, that's the boy for me, because I've been thinking about that for about 20 years. So I learned to meditate on a cruise, when I was on a cruise. And we learned to meditate from the entertainments manager. So it wasn't a monk or a Buddhist or anything like that. It was him. But he just said up front, look, you know, this is how I learned. You know, I'm not saying it's the right way to learn. And so I went every day. I think it was on for maybe 5 or 6 days. And you just went every day and you would meditate a wee bit longer each day. So, I mean, it was not the kind of situation, if you like, that you would have thought you would have learned to meditate. But actually, I'm a person who likes to start things and then I never finish them. It was one of the things that I just truly kept up, and even after TFC, I kept it up, and I have done for years and years and years now. So I support, and knowing the huge benefits that I've had from that, I think, God, imagine if I had actually meditated, learned to meditate from an actual monk, how much maybe I would be even better. But it just goes to show you, I think, when the pupil is ready, the teacher appears. So whenever you're ready to start something, you will. And I have to say, by the sort of third time, probably, I definitely could feel a difference, and it just got better and better and better. So it's an unlikely source of meditation, but it definitely worked for me, and it definitely took me away from people discussing menus all the time. So the TFC was a disappointing holiday for me because, I worked from home and it was a chance to spend time with people that I like. But I actually found that people on holiday are very different often than from who they really are on an ordinary basis. So it was a lot of money to spend time on my own. I couldn't bear that constant chatter about the food and the detail, and it just was all day long. So I just couldn't deal with that. So I did spend a lot of time on my own. But coming back from it and, telling other people about it, they said, but you have to remember that the fucking cruise was the only way that you learned to meditate. So it may have cost you quite a lot of money, but would you have ever learned to meditate under any other circumstances? So for the TFC, I suppose I'm probably quite grateful for that. And that's the one really, really good thing that came out of it. And if anybody ever asks me what is the thing that, what made your life different, how did you gradually stop being a BAM? How did you gradually, start to be more rational and to be able to think before you speak and be able to think things through and not react all the time, which truly had been my whole life's behaviour. I'm going to say I'm a big reader as well, so I used to devour and still do devour books, but meditation for me was solely the one factor that completely changed my life. So now we'll move on from the TFC to finding your tribe. So this is a real subject close to my heart because I just love the fact that I could belong to a tribe, because I always just thought I was a wee kind of silo. I just always thought I was living my life alone because I couldn't find anybody that was like me. Now I have, but at that time, absolutely not. So what does it actually mean, finding your tribe? Well, the best explanation, I'm going to put that there, thank you. The best description of finding your tribe I found in this book. I think I've talked about it before. This is probably one of my favourite books that I go to all the time. It's called Self-Care for the Real World, and it is absolutely brilliant. Written by two women in small snippets of information. It covers almost everything that you could have to deal with in your life, and it's absolutely brilliant. But they have a great explanation that certainly resonated with me. So I'm just going to actually read what they've said because I certainly couldn't improve on it. So the best explanation of this is from this book, and I'm just going to quote from that. So that book says, your tribe isn't exactly the same thing as your friends, although they can cross over. But instead, you'll recognise your tribe by their similar belief systems or interests, maybe in healthy eating, yoga, men's groups, or whatever. And finding a tribe in itself is self-care because it provides you with that primal feeling of belonging, which is an essential human need. Isn't that lovely? I just completely love that. Your tribe is about your beliefs, your moral code, or mindset, or even shared human experience. Because what unites people can be stronger than their differences. So whether it's like me, going to an AA meeting or going to a pottery class, if this is your tribe, you'll find people who get you. You'll feel you can be open, honest, and vulnerable. Wow. that can happen. You can be vulnerable with your tribe. So making the effort to meet regularly, to keep your community together is important. And it can be harder as life, takes on different meanings and goes in different directions and take on more responsibilities. But I think it's important to try to plan at least maybe once a month or every couple of months to meet up. Or otherwise you'll just get so busy you don't see each other. So I had I was in a tribe for a few years, and there was just the three of us, three women, and we met faithfully every Sunday. You can see I'm smiling because I got so many fantastic memories of that time. And it started off as training for the kilt walk. We'd all decided to do the kilt walk, and we were kind of quite fit, but not fit enough to do the 25 miles we'd signed up for. So we started training on a Sunday. And when that was over, we just kind of continued. So we continued to meet, walk, talk, and have a picnic. I am a pure picnic queen. I will have a picnic anytime at all. Even if it's raining, I'll have a picnic in the car. I love picnics. I love being outdoors. I love talking outdoors. I love the nature. I'm a bit of a sort of good at bringing a picnic. So I say to people, don't bother, I'll bring the picnic because I know what you like, and generally it goes down really well. And I get a lot of pleasure out of making the picnic too. So I am a definite picnic queen. But during those precious hours of walking, talking and eating, we had space to talk about any of our worries, or we would ask advice from each other. It was a wee bit like therapy. None of us minded being vulnerable. We knew our tribe was there to support us, and we only wanted the best for each other. Sometimes we just needed to rant, but we had a space for that too. And we gave each other what was needed on the day. It was easy, comfy. And we just got each other. Sundays really were a day to look forward to. For me, anyway. And I still miss them today. And I have such happy memories of that time, and such laughs that we had as well, that I will always treasure. But sadly, it only lasted a few years as the other two moved on to do other pursuits. And it seemed I was the only one who really enjoyed these times. But life moves on, doesn't it? And apart from having that, I would now say that in the 90s, I was in a tribe of people of maybe 6 or 8 who all worked together, and also had friends outside of that. But all of that tribe used to meet up regularly. And again, it was just very easy. We had a lot of stuff in common, and we just really enjoyed each other's company. So maybe I would say these are my experiences of being in a tribe, and I loved them both. And if I got a chance to be in a tribe that was right for me, I would take it in a heartbeat. I wonder if I could be so bold as to think that maybe a new tribe might be coming from my podcast. Now, that would be very exciting for me, a very exciting prospect, probably a dream come true for me to be in a tribe from that. So let's see what happens. Again, as always, you know that I'm so delighted with all the contact and messages that people take the time to send. It just means, honestly, it just really means the world to me, and that is a fact. So that's the end of this episode for this week. Thanks for joining me. And I just wanted to add a wee reminder that I'm now doing a live on a Wednesday night. I know that's the night that the podcast drops too, but I could see that from the people that joined, they still managed to watch the podcast as well. So it was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. And I hope, and I think the other people did too. We got a lot out of it, and I learned a lot, by asking people, to join and listening to what they had to say and listening to their points of view and answering their questions. It really gave me quite a different perspective on things. So it was very, very interesting as well as enjoyable. So that's the end of this episode. Look forward to seeing you next time. And if you've got time, join us on Instagram for the live next week too. Thanks for your company.